The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a massive sphere of crystal and metal where representatives from 400 species gathered to discuss the fate of the galaxy. Today, the hall was filled with a sound that echoed off every wall and ceiling. The sound was laughter. Ambassador Price stood at the central podium, her back straight and her face calm. She had prepared for this moment for 3 years. She had studied every species, learned their customs, practiced her speech 100 times, but nothing had prepared her for the laughter. Above her head, a holographic image of a ship rotated slowly. The ship was called the ESV Steadfast, and it was humanity's first true interstellar vessel. Had expected curiosity. She had expected questions. She had not expected 400 species to laugh at her like she was telling a joke. The representative slithered forward from his seat. There were snake-like creatures covered in shimmering scales that changed color with their emotions. Right now, the scales were bright yellow, the color of amusement and contempt. His name was High Speaker, and he was one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Forgive me," Ambassador said, though his voice held no apology. "But I must ask a question. This ship of yours, this Steadfast, what is its maximum velocity?" Kept her voice steady, .3 light speed. The laughter grew louder. Scales flickered with even brighter yellow. .3. Our garbage haulers travel faster than that. Our children's toys travel faster than that. From the upper seats, a commander rose to his feet. There were massive creatures with hard shells and powerful claws. They had conquered 60 star systems through speed and aggression, and they looked down on every species slower than themselves. "This is what humans bring to the galactic community," the boomed. "A ship that crawls through space like a wounded animal. Perhaps you should stay on your little planet, humans. The stars are not for the slow." More laughter, more mockery, gripped the edges of the podium and forced herself to breathe. She thought about what waited back home. She thought about the work of 2 centuries. She thought about her grandmother, who had been taken by slavers when was just a child. She thought about all the human colonies that had been raided, all the ships that had been destroyed, all the people who had suffered because humanity was too weak to defend itself. And she thought about the secret hidden inside the Steadfast. "Humanity is proud of our achievement," said when the laughter finally faded. "We have traveled far in a short time. 200 years ago, we had not even left our own planet. Now we stand before you as a spacefaring species." "A slow spacefaring species," corrected. "Tell me, Ambassador, what good is a ship that cannot run from danger? What good is a vessel that any pirate, any raider, any enemy can catch with ease?" "Perhaps," said carefully, "running is not always the answer." This produced more amusement. The representative shook his head, his scales now shifting to purple, the color of pity. "Humans are young," said. "You will learn. In this galaxy, speed is everything. Speed is power. Speed is survival. Those who cannot move fast do not move for long." The session ended shortly after. Walked back to the human shuttle with her small delegation, ignoring the stares and whispered comments from the alien representatives they passed. Lieutenant Commander Lane was waiting for her inside the shuttle. Was the lead designer of the Steadfast, a brilliant engineer who had spent 20 years perfecting the ship's systems. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "How bad was it?" asked. "They laughed for 6 minutes straight," replied, dropping into a seat. "I counted." Nodded slowly. "Good." Looked at her with surprise. "Good. They treated us like fools. They mocked everything we have built." "Exactly." Pulled up a holographic display showing the Steadfast true specifications, the ones that had not been shared with the Council. "Let them laugh. Let them think we are weak and slow and foolish. Let them underestimate us." She pointed to a section of the ship that took up nearly half its mass. "Do you know what this is?" "The main weapon system, the certainty drive." The most powerful weapon ever created by any species, said. 200 years of research, every great mind humanity has produced, all focused on one single goal. She closed the display. They think speed is power. They are wrong. Certainty is power. The absolute certainty that when you fire your weapon, your enemy will die. Back on Earth, Admiral watched the recording of the council session from his office in Geneva. He was an old man with white hair and a face marked by decades of service. He had fought in 3 colonial defense actions and had lost his son to a raid 15 years ago. His aide, Captain Benjamin Torres, stood nearby with a tablet in his hands. "Sir, the media is asking for a response. The council broadcast was seen by billions." "Let them mock us," said. "Every species that has ever underestimated humanity has regretted it." The Steadfast is scheduled to depart for the frontier next week. It's a dangerous region, lots of pirate activity. Nodded. "I know, that's why I chose it." "Sorry." The Admiral turned to face his aide. "For 200 years humanity has been prey, our ships have been hunted, our people have been taken, and we have been unable to fight back because we could not build ships fast enough to compete." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "So we stopped trying to be fast. We focused on being final." He pulled up the same specifications that had shown. The Steadfast carries a weapon that ignores shields. It ignores armor. It ignores every defense that the galaxy has ever created. One shot, one kill. It doesn't matter how fast your ship is if you are dead before you can run. Benjamin studied the display with wide eyes. "Does the council know about this?" "No, and they won't know until we choose to show them." Closed the display. "Let the galaxy laugh at the slow humans. Let them think we are weak. And when the time comes, let them learn what humanity truly built while they were busy mocking us." The Steadfast departed Earth 1 week later. Captain Gregory Cole stood on the bridge as the ship slowly accelerated away from the planet that had given birth to his species. He was a patient man. He had waited 30 years for this command. He could wait a little longer to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. The frontier was the most dangerous region of known space. It sat at the edge of 3 different territorial claims, which meant no single species controlled it. Pirates loved such places. They could raid ships, steal cargo, take prisoners, and disappear into the chaos before any navy could respond. The ESV Steadfast had been traveling through the frontier for 3 weeks. To outside observers, it looked like a fat, slow target drifting through hostile waters. Captain Gregory Cole knew exactly what it looked like. That was the point. Gregory sat in his command chair on the bridge, reading reports on a tablet. He was a calm man who rarely raised his voice. His crew had learned to watch his eyes instead of listening to his tone. When the captain's eyes went cold, trouble was coming. Lieutenant Sandra Bell worked at the sensor station nearby. She was young for her position, only 28, but she had the sharpest eyes in the fleet. Nothing escaped her notice. "Captain," Sandra said, her voice tight, "I have contacts. Multiple vessels approaching from the asteroid field at bearing 275. Gregory set down his tablet. "How many?" 12 ships, sir. They are using standard formation patterns." A quiet tension spread through the bridge. Everyone knew about them. They were the most feared pirates in the galaxy, brutal creatures who sold their prisoners to slave markets across a dozen systems. Human captives were especially valuable because humans could survive conditions that killed other species. Communications Officer Daniel Park looked up from his station. "Sir, we are being hailed." "Put it on screen." The main display flickered and a face appeared. It was a face, which meant it was designed for violence. Heavy bone ridges protected the eyes. Thick tusks jutted from the lower jaw. Scars covered every visible surface of skin, marks of honor among their kind. "Human vessel," the commander growled. "I am warlord of the Red Claw clan. Your ship is slow. Your weapons are weak. You cannot run and you cannot fight. Surrender now and I will give some of your crew quick deaths. Resist and you will all be sold to the fighting pits." Gregory leaned back in his chair. "This is Captain Gregory Cole of the ESV Steadfast. We are on a peaceful scientific mission. We carry no valuable cargo." Laughed, a harsh barking sound that showed all his teeth. "All humans are valuable cargo. Your kind is soft and weak, but you scream well in the arena. My buyers pay good prices for human slaves." "I am asking you to reconsider," Gregory said. "Turn your ships around and leave. This is your only warning." The laughter grew louder. Turned to speak to someone off screen, and Gregory could hear other voices joining in the amusement. "The slow human threatens me," said. "This is a fine joke. I will remember it when I watch you bleed." The transmission ended. Sandra reported from her station. "The ships are moving to surround us. At their current speed, they will have us boxed in within 3 minutes. Their weapons are charging." Lieutenant Amy Foster spoke up from the engineering station. "Shields are at full power, Captain. But I should warn you, plasma weapons will burn through our shields in approximately 8 minutes of sustained fire." "Understood." Gregory stood from his chair and clasped his hands behind his back. "Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations." Alarms began to ring throughout the ship. Crew members ran to their positions, sealing hatches and preparing systems. In the medical bay, Dr. Nancy prepared for casualties. In the fighter bay, pilots climbed into their small craft, knowing they could not match speed but ready to fight anyway. Deep in the belly of the Steadfast, Chief Engineer Victor Santos stood before the largest machine ever built by human hands. The Certainty Drive filled a chamber that stretched 300 meters in every direction. It had been charging for 6 months, storing energy in capacitors the size of buildings, preparing for this exact moment. "Bridge, this is engineering," Victor reported. "The main gun is at 91% charge. We can fire in approximately 4 minutes." "Understood, engineering. Keep me informed." On the bridge, the chief weapons officer ran calculations on his console. Was Victor's older brother, a coincidence that the crew found amusing. Both brothers had dedicated their lives to making the Certainty Drive work. "Targeting solutions are ready, Captain," announced. "I have locks on all 12 vessels. Recommend we prioritize the flagship." "Agreed." Gregory watched the tactical display as the ships moved into position around the Steadfast. They were beautiful ships in their own way, sleek and fast and deadly. They had destroyed hundreds of vessels over the years. Sandra called out an update. "Flagship is charging main weapons. They are preparing to fire." "Let them fire first," Gregory said. The bridge crew exchanged glances but said nothing. They trusted their captain. The flagship unleashed its attack. Plasma torpedoes streaked across space, bright orange balls of fire that could melt through steel. They struck the Steadfast shields in a cascade of explosions. "Shields holding," Amy reported. "Integrity at 74%. More ships opened fire. The Steadfast shuddered under the assault. Warning lights began to flash on several consoles. "Shields at 62%. Engineering, status on the main gun." Victor's voice came through the speakers. 97%, Captain, almost there." Another barrage hit the ship. A panel exploded on the bridge, showering sparks across the deck. A crew member cried out in pain. "Shields at 48%. Gregory remained calm. "Engineering." 99%, just a few more seconds. "Shields at 39%. Captain, we cannot take much more of this." The tactical display showed all 12 ships firing continuously. They were enjoying themselves, taking their time, savoring the kill. "Main gun at 100%, Victor announced. "Ready to fire on your command, Captain." Gregory Cole smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Open a channel to the flagship." Daniel worked his console, Channel open, sir. Warlord's face appeared on screen again. The commander was grinning with savage joy. Ready to surrender, human. Your shields are failing. Your ship is dying. Beg me for mercy, and perhaps I will only sell half your crew. I wanted you to see this, Gregory said quietly. I wanted you to understand what you have awakened. Tell your gods that humanity sends its regards. He turned to fire. The universe changed in that moment. Everything that knew about warfare, everything the galaxy believed about power and speed and survival, became obsolete in the time it took for a single weapon to discharge. The certainty drive fired. The beam that emerged from the steadfast was not like any weapon the galaxy had ever seen. It did not glow like plasma. It did not flash like a laser. It was something else entirely, a focused pulse of energy that seemed to twist the very fabric of space as it traveled. The flagship never had a chance. Warlord was still grinning on when the beam struck his ship. For a fraction of a second, the vessel seemed to shimmer, as if it was a reflection in water disturbed by a stone. Then it simply came apart. Not exploded, not burned. Came apart at the most basic level of matter. The atoms that made up the ship's hull, its weapons, its crew, all of them lost their bonds to each other. The flagship dissolved into a cloud of particles that spread outward in a perfect sphere, glittering briefly in the light of distant stars before fading into nothing. Where a warship had been 1 second ago, there was now only empty space. On the bridge of the Steadfast, absolute silence held for 3 heartbeats. Then Sandra Bell spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. Target destroyed, flagship is gone. The 11 remaining ships had stopped firing. Gregory imagined their commanders staring at their sensors, trying to understand what had just happened. Their flagship, the largest and most powerful vessel in their fleet, had simply vanished. Open a channel, Gregory ordered. All frequencies. Daniel worked his console with trembling fingers. Channel open, Captain. Gregory spoke calmly into the silence. This is Captain Gregory Cole of the ESV Steadfast. You have just witnessed the death of Warlord and his entire crew. Our weapon requires no shields to stop it. It requires no armor to block it. There is no defense against it. He paused to let his words sink in. Our capacitors are now recharging. In approximately 4 minutes, we will be ready to fire again. I can destroy 1 ship every 4 minutes until none of you remain. He leaned forward slightly. Or you can leave. Now, the choice is yours. For a long moment, nothing happened. The ships hung motionless in space, their weapons still pointed at the Steadfast. Gregory waited. He had given them a chance. If they chose to fight, he would destroy them all. Then the first ship turned. Its engines flared blue as it accelerated away from the Steadfast. A second ship followed. Then a third. Within 60 seconds, all 11 remaining vessels were fleeing at maximum speed, leaving trails of engine exhaust behind them. They are running, Captain, Sandra reported. There was wonder in her voice. They are actually running away. Track them until they leave sensor range. I want to make sure they don't come back. Amy Foster looked up from her engineering console. Shields are regenerating, Captain. Hull damage is minimal. Medical reports 7 injuries, none serious. Good. Gregory sat back in his chair. His hands were shaking slightly, a reaction to the tension he had been hiding. He clasped them together to keep them still. Stood at the weapons station with a distant expression. It worked, he said softly. All those years of design, all those calculations, all those simulations, it actually worked. Did you doubt it would? Part of me did, Captain. Part of me always wondered if we were fools, building a weapon that might fail at the worst possible moment. Turned to face Gregory. We just changed everything. The whole galaxy is going to hear about this. That's what I'm counting on. In engineering, Victor Santos stood before the certainty drive with tears running down his face. He had spent 15 years of his life on this machine. He had missed birthdays, holidays, and weddings. His marriage had ended because he could not stop working, all of it for this moment. "Beautiful," he whispered. "You beautiful, terrible thing." The drive hummed quietly, already building charge for the next shot that might never need to be fired. News of the battle spread faster than anyone expected. The fleeing ships reached a trading station within 2 days, and their commanders could not stop talking about what they had seen. They spoke of a human ship that moved like a sleeping beast and killed like an angry god. They spoke of a weapon that ignored every defense. They spoke of Warlord, the terror of the frontier, reduced to atoms in less than a second. Within a week, the story had reached every corner of the galaxy. Within a month, it was being discussed in every government chamber, every military headquarters, every scientific institution. The slow human ship had shot once, and everything had changed. On Earth, Admiral held a press conference. Reporters from every nation filled the room, their cameras broadcasting to billions of viewers. "Ladies and," began, "I am here to confirm reports you may have heard regarding an incident in the frontier. The ESV Steadfast was attacked by pirates. In response to this unprovoked assault, Captain Gregory Cole authorized the use of our primary defensive system." He paused, looking directly into the cameras. "The weapon is called the Certainty Drive. It represents 200 years of human scientific achievement. We developed it because we had no choice. Our ships could not outrun the threats we faced. Our shields could not withstand the attacks we suffered. Our people were being taken, enslaved, murdered, and we could not protect them." His voice hardened. "So we stopped trying to build ships that could run away. Instead, we built a ship that could stand and fight. A ship that could fire one shot and end any battle. A ship that offered certainty in an uncertain universe." A reporter shouted a question. "Admiral, are you saying humanity has developed an unbeatable weapon?" "I am saying that we have developed a weapon that provides complete certainty of outcome. If you attack a human ship equipped with the Certainty Drive, you will die. Not might die, not probably die, will die. It is certain." Another reporter asked, "What about the other species, the Council, how are they reacting?" Allowed himself a small smile. "The same Council that laughed at our slow ships, the same representatives who mocked our technology and called us primitive." He shook his head. "Let them react however they wish. Humanity is done being prey. We are done being victims. We are done being the galaxy's joke." He straightened his uniform and looked into the cameras one final time. "They laughed at our ships. They called us slow. They said we would never survive in a galaxy built on speed." His eyes were cold and hard. "Now let them see what slow can do." The press conference ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the recording and tried to understand what it meant. The rules of power had just been rewritten, and a species that everyone had dismissed as weak had done the rewriting. The galaxy had laughed at the slow humans. No one was laughing anymore. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most heavily attended in 300 years. Every species sent their highest representatives. Every seat was filled. The air itself seemed thick with tension and fear. Ambassador Price walked to the central podium for the second time in her career. The first time, she had been laughed at. This time, the chamber was utterly silent. 400 species watched her with expressions that ranged from terror to respect to barely hidden rage. High Speaker of the was the first to speak. His scales were dark blue now, the color of deep concern and careful thought. Gone was the yellow mockery of their first meeting. "Ambassador Price," began, his voice formal and controlled, "the Council demands an explanation. Your species has deployed a weapon that violates the fundamental principles of galactic warfare. You have upset a balance that has existed for thousands of years." Remained calm, she had expected this. "Which principles have we violated, High Speaker? Please be specific." Scales flickered. The principle of proportional response. Your weapon does not disable or damage, it destroys completely. There is no chance for surrender, no opportunity for mercy. They did not offer us mercy, replied. They offered us slavery and death. Were we supposed to fight them with weapons that gave them a sporting chance? A commander rose from his seat. You have created an escalation problem. Now every species will want this weapon. There will be an arms race that destabilizes the entire galaxy. Perhaps, acknowledged. Or perhaps the galaxy will finally have peace. When every battle ends with certain death, perhaps beings will think twice before starting wars. That is naive, they growled. History shows that more powerful weapons lead to more destruction, not less. Human history shows something different, activated a holographic display behind her. In our past, we developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We called them nuclear weapons. And yes, at first, everyone feared they would end our civilization. But they did not. Instead, the great powers of our world stopped fighting each other directly. The certainty of mutual destruction created the longest period of peace between major nations in our recorded history. The chamber murmured with discussion. This was new information to most species. Human history was not widely studied outside Earth. A diplomat, one of the gentle species that had always been preyed upon by stronger neighbors, raised a tentacle for permission to speak. The people have a question, she said. Her voice was soft but carried clearly through the chamber. Will humanity share this technology? Will you protect other species who cannot protect themselves? Had prepared for this question. Humanity will not share the certainty drive technology. It is too dangerous to spread freely. However, we are prepared to offer our protection to any peaceful species that requests it. Our ships will escort your vessels. Our weapons will defend your worlds. In exchange, we ask only for fair trade and mutual respect. This caused an uproar. Several aggressive species shouted objections. The representative, attending despite his people's recent humiliation, slammed his fist against his seat. This is imperialism, he bellowed. Humans will use their weapon to control the galaxy. They will become tyrants. Unlike the who have spent centuries taking slaves and raiding peaceful worlds. His voice was sharp. Unlike the who conquered 60 systems because they could. Unlike the who manipulated trade agreements to keep weaker species dependent on their goods. She turned to address the entire chamber. Humanity has been part of this galactic community for 200 years. In that time, we have been attacked, exploited, mocked, and ignored. We have watched our ships burn and our people suffer. We have begged this council for protection and been told we were too slow to matter. Her voice rose with controlled anger. So we stopped asking for help. We stopped trying to fit into your system of speed and aggression. We built something different. We built something that changes the rules. And now you are afraid because for the first time, the weak can stand against the strong. High Speaker raised a hand for silence. What does humanity want? What are your demands? We have no demands, said. We want only what we have always wanted, to live in peace, to trade fairly, to explore the stars without fear. She paused. And we want respect. Not because we are fast, not because we are strong in the old ways, but because we have earned it. On Earth, the reaction to the council session was divided. Many humans celebrated. For the first time in their history as a spacefaring species, they were being taken seriously. Others worried about the consequences. Would the galaxy unite against them? Would there be war? Admiral addressed these concerns in a private meeting with the Earth government. The aggressive species are angry but afraid, he explained. They know they cannot attack us without losing everything. The peaceful species are hopeful. Many of them have already sent requests for protection agreements. And the middle powers, asked President Maria Santos, the species who are neither aggressors nor victims. They are watching, waiting, trying to understand the new balance of power. Pulled up a star map showing human-controlled space and the territories around it. We are building 3 more certainty ships: the resolve, the patience, and the conviction. When they are complete, we will have enough firepower to protect our allies and deter any combination of enemies. How long until they are ready? The resolve will launch in 8 months. The others will follow at 6-month intervals. President Santos studied the map for a long moment. We have changed the galaxy forever. Yes, we have. I hope we have changed it for the better. Thought about his son, killed by raiders 15 years ago. He thought about all the humans who had been taken as slaves, all the colonies that had been burned, all the suffering that had been caused because humanity was too weak to fight back. Anything is better than what came before, he said quietly. Anything is better than being prey. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy slowly adjusted to the new reality. Trade routes shifted as aggressive species learned to avoid human ships. Pirate activity dropped by half as raiders realized that attacking human vessels meant certain death. The other peaceful species signed protection agreements, trading goods and technology for the security of human escorts. And in the shipyards of Earth, 3 great ships slowly took shape. They would be slow, like the Steadfast. They would carry crews who understood that they could not run from danger, and each of them would carry a weapon that promised certainty in an uncertain universe. The galaxy was still learning what that meant, but they were learning fast. Humanity had spent 2 centuries as the slow species, the weak species, the species that everyone underestimated. Now they were something else. They were the species that had found a different path to power, a path that did not require speed or aggression or cruelty. They were the species that had learned to be patient, and their patience had paid off in ways that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. 5 years had passed since the Frontier incident. The galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. Old alliances had crumbled, new friendships had formed, and at the center of it all, humanity had grown from a mocked newcomer into one of the most respected species in known space. Admiral Gregory Cole stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the ESV Determination. It was the 5th certainty ship, larger and more powerful than the Steadfast that had started everything. Through Gregory could see 3 other human vessels keeping formation nearby. Each one carried the weapon that had changed galactic politics forever. Commander Sandra Bell stood beside him, now his second in command. She had grown from a young censor officer into a seasoned veteran, her face marked by 5 years of responsibility and difficult decisions. "The convoy is secure, Admiral," Sandra reported. 23 trade ships all accounted for. No hostile contacts within 10 light years. "Good. Maintain formation until we reach the station." This was what humanity had become. Not conquerors, not tyrants, protectors. Every day, human ships escorted the weak through dangerous space. Every day, the certainty of human weapons kept the peace. Sandra looked at the Admiral with a thoughtful expression. "Do you remember what they used to call us, before the incident? The slow ones, the crawlers, the joke of the galaxy." Gregory allowed himself a small smile. "I remember. My daughter asked me about it yesterday. She is studying galactic history in school, and she did not believe me when I told her how things used to be. She could not imagine a galaxy where humans were not respected. She has never known anything different." "No, she has not," Sandra paused. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Gregory considered the question carefully. He thought about all the humans who had suffered in the old days, when their species was prey for any raider or slaver who wanted easy targets. He thought about the fear that every human colony had lived with, the knowledge that help was always too slow to arrive. "It is a good thing," he finally said. "Let the next generation take safety for granted. Let them grow up believing that humanity deserves respect. We fought so that they would not have to." A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Lieutenant Daniel Park, now the ship's senior communications officer, looked up from his station. "Admiral, we are receiving a request from the High Commander. He wishes to come aboard." Gregory and Sandra exchanged surprised glances. They had been among the loudest voices mocking humanity 5 years ago. They had also been among the slowest to accept the new galactic order. "Grant the request. Have an honor guard meet him at the docking bay." 30 minutes later, High Commander stood on the bridge of the Determination. He was a massive creature, even larger than most of his kind, with a shell by countless battles. His black eyes studied the human ship with undisguised curiosity. "Admiral Cole," said. His voice was deep and resonant. "I have come to deliver a message from my people." "I am listening." 5 years ago at the council chamber, I stood and mocked your species. I called you slow. I said the stars were not for your kind." The great lowered his head slightly. "I was wrong. My people were wrong. We measured strength only in speed, and we were fools." Gregory said nothing, waiting for the to continue. "The Dominion has observed humanity for 5 years. We have watched you protect the weak. We have watched you refuse to abuse your power. We have watched you show mercy to enemies who showed you none." Straightened to his full height. "This is not the behavior of a weak species. This is the behavior of a truly strong one." "What are you saying, High Commander?" "I am saying that the wish to be your allies, not through fear of your weapons but through respect for your character." Extended one massive claw in the gesture of peace. "We are a proud people, Admiral. We do not apologize easily, but I am apologizing now on behalf of my entire species. We were wrong about humanity." Gregory reached out and touched the offered claw with his hand, completing the ancient gesture. "Your apology is accepted, High Commander, and your offer of alliance is welcome." After departed, Sandra turned to Gregory with wonder in her eyes. Of all species, I never expected them to come around." People can change. Species can change. Even the proudest can learn to see things differently. Gregory walked to the and looked out at the stars. "That was always our hope, was it not? Not to rule the galaxy through fear, but to change it through example." "Do you think we have succeeded?" Gregory thought about all that had happened since that first shot in the frontier. He thought about the trade agreements and protection treaties. He thought about the pirates who had disappeared and the slavers who had gone out of business. He thought about the children being born on human colonies, children who would never know the fear that their parents had lived with. "We are succeeding," he said. "It is not finished. It may never be finished, but we are moving in the right direction." The Determination continued on its slow, steady course through the stars. Around it, the convoy of ships traveled safely, protected by the certainty of human weapons and the patience of human crews. Back on Earth, the fourth generation of humans born into space was growing up in a galaxy that their ancestors would barely recognize. They learned in school about the old days, the days of raids and slavery and mockery. They found it hard to believe. How could anyone have looked at humanity and seen weakness? In Geneva, at the United Fleet Command, a memorial wall listed the names of every human who had died before the age of certainty. There were thousands of names, each one representing a life lost because humanity had been too slow to save them. Visitors came every day to touch the names and remember. Admiral had retired 3 years ago. He spent his days in a small house by the sea, watching ships launch from the orbital station high above. Sometimes he thought about his son, who had died in a raid so many years ago. "We did it," he would whisper to the sky. "We built something that could protect us. We made them respect us. Your death was not meaningless." The galaxy still had problems. There were still conflicts and disagreements. There were still species who resented human power and dreamed of finding a counter to the certainty drive. But the old days of casual predation were over. The weak could find protection. The peaceful could travel safely. And humanity, once mocked as the slowest species in space, had become something far more important than fast. They had become certain. On the bridge of the Determination, Admiral Gregory Cole watched the stars drift past and felt something that had been rare for humans in the early days. He felt safe. He felt proud. He felt certain that his species had found its place among the stars. The galaxy had laughed at the slow human ship. Then that ship had shot once, and the laughter had stopped forever.